100 years, 100 voices. A St. John Centennial Oral History project conceived and produced by WSJS Radio, where every day is history.
This is WSJS Radio.
Hello, this is Stella. Why did you attend St. John's?
Hi, this is Carlos, Stella's father, Carlos Guardiola. I attended St. John's because my mother got a job here in 1982, I think it was. And we moved here from Connecticut.
What did you most remember about being a student here?
I remember everything about being a student here. It was a very happy time in my life. My mother was the principal, and now she's the headmaster. She used to be called Mrs. Guardiola, and now she's Dr. Melendez. But I remember coming to school here. I didn't know anybody. There wasn't any uniforms, and there weren't that many students. The Hurricane Center looked the same, but there was no pit and there was no gymnasium. There was just a field, and we played in the field. And I remember the teachers, and I remember it pretty much the same as it is now, only it looked a lot bigger.
¿En dónde tú hacías PE?
Ay, gracias, Joaquín, por esa pregunta. When we took PE in St. John's, there was no gymnasium. So across the street where St. Mary's is now, there was El Casino de Puerto Rico. And El Casino de Puerto Rico had a pool, and they had a gym, which was kind of old, had no walls. It was in front of the beach. And that was our gym. And sometimes, when the surf was good, our PE teacher, Scott, would take us surfing and boogie boarding during our PE. What do you think about that, Joaquin? Would you like to go surfing for PE?
Yes.
I don't think the insurance policies would permit that at this time.
What were your main school activities?
I was involved in everything. I was involved in oratoria, United Nations, anything that there was to do in the school. I played basketball, baseball. I played soccer. There was no football in St. John's. St. John's was not necessarily known for its sports. We weren't very good, except I can tell you we were very good in soccer. Soccer was a good sport for us because during that time there was a lot of people that were here in the pharmaceuticals, and we had an international team. So we had Alessandro Baiocchi, who was Italian. He was pretty mediocre for Italian, but in Puerto Rico he was a superstar. There was Rodrigo, who was Chilean, and we had a lot of people from different parts of the world, and we played very well. Soccer, golf was very good. I remember we were very good in golf. I never played golf, but St. John's was good in golf, and tennis.
Did you have good grades?
Oh, that's a very good question, Joaquin. I always had pretty good grades. It's hard to have perfect grades in St. John's, as both of you know, but a B in St. John's is as good as an A in anywhere else. I can tell you that. So I got a lot of B's.
What do you believe most influenced you later as an adult?
I believe the things I learned in St. John's that most influenced me as an adult is having a variety of cultures and people here that I got to meet at a very young age. I believe that friendships that were formed and the diversity of the people taught me a lot about we're not the center of the universe here in Puerto Rico. There's a lot of other people out there, and there's a lot of other influences and other teachers, and I really think of my time here as very, very special and probably the most important time in my life.
Given that your kids could be attended to any other school, what reasons did you choose St. John's over all alternatives?
I never considered any other school for my kids that was not St. John's. I always wanted my kids to go to St. John's. I didn't know if that was possible because the world is a very big place. Maybe you will be living somewhere else when you're my age, and maybe your kids will or will not go to St. John's. But I have a feeling that if your experience is the same as mine is here, your kids will definitely come to St. John's, and we will have, with Mama Cucusa, that's one generation, me another generation, you a third generation. It would be very fun to have a fourth generation of St. John's alumni. Okay, I'll tell you an unforgettable anecdote from my times at St. John's. I was in 8th grade, and during that time, we had a field excursion for the high school kids that were going to go to Mona Island. It's very, very rare to have such an expedition because you needed to go first to this dock in, I think it was Ceiba, or I forget where we got it, but you would go at 12 at night, you would get on this boat, and at 6 in the morning, you would get to Mona Island, and there's nothing there. So high school kids were going to go, but there was an epidemic of chicken pox, and 3 of the kids couldn't go. And my mom was the principal, so they called up late, and they said, we have an extra spot. Do you think Carlos can go? And I was very small. I was the youngest of all of them. But I immediately hopped on, and I was able to go with Mr. Pratt's. And we spent 3 days in Mona Island camping. There was no water, no nothing. The fishing boat that took us there had to bring water to us, and we slept with the iguanas, and we went into caves. And I remember Laura Anderson, the top of Mona Island is so hot that we were walking up on top of Mona Island on a hike, and her sneakers melted. It was so hot. All of her sneakers melted, and we had to carry her down to the beach. And we were very mischievous at night. We didn't go to bed early, and we had fun on the beach. And it was a very special time. I remember I was very lucky because all the kids were much older than me. So I was just getting into high school, and they were just leaving high school. But to this day, a lot of those kids in that class, Claudio Corral, Fernando Montilla, Elvin Gonzalez, they're people that were much older than me, but we forged a friendship. And that's one of the things I really liked about the school, that it's so small that kids from 9th grade are actually friends with kids from 11th. And you don't have that in a lot of other schools. They're so big that everyone is within their grade and they have no other friends. So I always thought that was very special. And that time that I went to Mona was very, very special. I don't think we ever did another trip to Mona. I think I did the last one. When discussing teachers, we have to mention Jorge Rivera. I think without a doubt, he has had an incredible impact on many generations of students in the school. He was a special math teacher. I had trouble with math too, and he taught me how to look at numbers in a different way. He was the first teacher to treat me as a kind of a contemporary, as an adult, and give me the respect that an adult gives. And that, I think, is part of the preparatory system of the school, St. John's. When you go to college, you're not a kid, and you're just an adult, and you're paying for a service, and they're giving you a service, and if you don't understand how that dynamic works, then you're lost in college. So I think other than the books, having that experience with teachers here and having the respect that they show you as an individual is very important when you get to college, and it helped me a lot.
What was your earliest memory?
Oh, my earliest memory of St. John's. I had just gotten here from Connecticut. I was very scared, different from you, because when I came to school, it wasn't cool to have your mom be the principal. You were very little. When you came here, you were in pre-K, and when kids are little, they see the boss as very cool. When they're in 8th grade and 9th grade, they don't want anything to do with the, with the principal's son. So it was hard for me to get friends. I didn't know anybody. I was a little bit shy, and I was worried that that people weren't going to be my friend because of my mom. And Rodrigo, Tio Rodrigo Corral, came to me and said, "Hi, my name is Rodrigo. They have very good empanadillas de pizza." And he invited me to an empanadilla de pizza in a Hurricane Center. Then he later confessed to me that I was the principal's son, and that he knew that he could get special privileges if he was my friend. But we remain great friends to this day. So.
How was Condado back then?
Well, Condado was a lot different. There wasn't hardly any buildings in front of the school. One of the biggest buildings was the hospital and the school. Everything in front of the school was not there. There were big houses, bien casonas, a lot of houses. And when back in the day, we were able to go out to lunch. So in 7th, 8th grade, you would get a lunch pass. And I remember every day I would walk to Burger King because I would have $3, and I would have a Whopper, a fries, and a Coke. It was $3.10. And every day I would have the same thing, and you would walk back, or you can go to the park, or some people lived close to here, and we would go to Alexandro Baiocchi. His mother was Italian, and they made fresh pasta, and sometimes they had fresh pasta at home, and we would go eat. I remember this to this day. They had a lot of sofas, and she would dry the pasta on the sofa. So whenever we went to his house, we would have to move pasta to sit down on the sofa, and I remember it so well. She was a great cook. Living in Condado now compared to then, I lived in Guaynabo, and we would have to drive in. I hated that, to be in the tapón. And one of the things I wanted to move here was, it reminded me a lot driving over here. So now we live here. So we walk, and that's one of the things that I think my friends, Jill Schlump, she used to walk across the street and have lunch with her mom. And one of the things that I wanted for you guys to have when you're here. So I'm very happy that we live in Condado now. And that this is an urban school, which is a great thing. So much is said about the difficulties of drop off and pick up, and that there's not a lot of green grass fields, but there's a great vitality and life to urban campuses. Kids have to be smart. They need to know that if you walk across the street, you get hit by a car. There's homeless people, there's roads, there's noises, there's bikes. All of those things, I think, help prepare you for things that will inevitably you will have to deal with in a big city. So I see the setting of St. John's as an ideal place for the job that is supposed to be done here, which is preparing you for college. Hopefully you'll go to a college in New York so I can go and visit you. Carlos Guardiola, class of 1986.